I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this evening's meeting. This is July 2nd, the 12th meeting of the year of the Board of Directors for the City of Hot Springs. Welcome to each and every one of you. We'll begin with an invocation by Pastor Tommy Williams of the Legacy Church, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for another day here on planet Earth. Lord, we just ask that you would pour out your Spirit on this gathering here tonight. Lord, I just ask that your blessings would be poured out on our mayor and the representatives, their families. Lord, that you would keep your hand on our city. And we thank you, Lord, for your mercy and grace. We ask you that you would forgive us of all of our shortcomings, and we're so thankful, Lord, that you are a good God that receives us, and we cast ourselves at your mercy. We tune our ear to hear your voice, and we pray, God, that you would lead and guide us in this moment. We thank you for who you are. Thank you for your protection and your goodness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia. Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to move R-24-129 to new business.
Okay, item number 4. We'll move that to the first item under new business. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Agenda is adopted as amended. This time we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting of June 18, 2024. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Director Trusty.
Second.
Second by Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Any recognition of guests? Of course, all of you are our guests here tonight, so thank you for joining us. Now we'll hear from our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, as he reviews the city manager's report. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. First, I want to make everyone aware that city offices will be closed this Thursday in recognition of the 4th of July holiday. Residential and commercial solid waste routes will run one day behind schedule. This is only inside the city limits. Thursday's routes will be on Friday and Friday on Saturday. Transportation depot, including intercity transit buses and paratransit services, will be closed that day as well, and also the compost facility. As you may have heard, we have our first cooling shelter event that'll be taking place this Wednesday, July 3rd and Thursday, July 4th. The shelter or the resource center will be open from noon until 6. There won't be any overnight stays, but we will have that open through St. Luke's and some of the volunteers we have from there. Invite the board if you'd like to stop down sometime tomorrow or the next day to see it. It's really shaped up well. Clean sweep. As you know, this will be our second clean sweep operation. That'll be kicking off July the 8th and will run through the 26th. There's about 524 address points. It's going to be from Hobson to Greenwood and then from Linwood to Albert Pike Road. It's a multi-department effort. The first week, City Neighborhood Services will go out throughout the neighborhoods and we'll pay door-to-door visits to each one of the properties. We'll make them aware of any violations that may be existent on the property. They'll distribute packets of educational information explaining what actions and what services are available to help them. During this time, we'll have cabs running through each one of those streets, picking up anything that they leave curbside at no charge to the resident. Other city departments will also be there. We'll have street sweepers, and this is, as you know, just an effort to beautify some of that area and give the property owners the assistance in being able to dispose of those items. Fire department personnel will also address fire safety concerns. We'll have information on fire protection as well as smoke detectors. And then the third week, neighborhood services will go back through, and should any of the violations remain, we'll start that process. Planning and development, we've got a new electrical inspector. His name is Andrew Vincent, so we want to welcome Andrew to the city. The bridge installation at the Gene Wallace Trailhead on June the 18th, the engineering department and Kate Landscaping and Excavation installed a 10-foot wide, 80-foot bridge across the Hot Springs Creek near the Gene Wallace Trailhead in the southern phase of the Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail System. The bridge will be a neighborhood connector from the Fontana Road and Tatum Street side over to the side that comes at the end of Television Hill Road. To complete the project, Kate Landscaping and Excavating will be pouring the concrete to complete the bridge deck and then add the boardwalk paths leading up to the bridge. So we're excited about that. We're getting very close to having the Hot Springs Greenway completed. So appreciate all of those that have been working on that major project. Energy Park was nominated for Best Park in the Reader's Choice Awards. So kudos to our Parks and Trails team. They've done a great job out there. As you know, we've had a lot of damage from the recent tornado. We had several from our Department of Corrections. I think 45 individuals were here cutting for 2 solid days and still had 2 trails that remain closed. However, we're close to getting those back open to the general public. Teen Police Academy. The Hot Springs Police Department hosted a Teen Police Academy from June 17th to the 21st, where students ranging from the age of 12 to 17-year-olds were able to learn a lot of the inner workings of the department. Officer McCauley and the K-9 Patriot was also there demonstrating some of the K-9 techniques and experiences that they have. They've learned about traffic stops, learned about the dangers of drugs, crime scene investigations, a mock trial by Judge Dyer, and they were also able to learn about the dangers of distracted driving, and then a SWAT demonstration. So hopefully some of these young folks that were going through our Teen Police Academy will think in the future as what they want to be as they grow up. The final item I want to talk about is the Gulfa Pump Station and the work that we're doing there. I'm very pleased to announce that the 24-inch new force main has been connected. We had to shut the pump station down earlier today for that tie-in, but that's been done. It's well above the scheduled date. They finished ahead of schedule. We had we would have been done probably 10, 14 days earlier, but our first pressure test on that line, we had a seal that one of the joints that did not hold, so we had to repair that, come back. It passed its pressure test last week. Got the tie-in done this morning, and that pipe is filling. So by now, hopefully, we're able to run all 3 of the pumps. They were still trying to work through that as the meeting progressed, or I was getting ready for the meeting. But by this evening, we should see that fully operational. And I know the residents out in that particular area are going to be very pleased to hear that. We've got a good portion of the 30-inch parallel pipe installed. Coakley is still working on that. Our goal is to bring something to the board in the next couple of meetings for the 36-inch pipe that'll connect to that 30. Our goal is to make sure that work is complete when the new pump station is complete or about mid next year. So that work continues. I'm proud of all the people that have worked on that. Coakley and Company have done a tremendous job getting that 24-inch in and getting it tied in. So with that, Mayor, that concludes my
Very good.
report.
Thank you very much. This time we'll review director's announcements regarding upcoming events. I just want to remind the board that within your board packet you have your the second half of the calendar year, July through December's meeting schedule. So we'll maintain that schedule unless something changes. And then I want to thank Director Steve Trusty for serving as Assistant Mayor in the first half of 2024. And now we look to Director Dudley Webb III of District 4 to serve in that capacity from July through December 2024. So look forward to working with you as needed in that area. Other announcements from from directors of upcoming events? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. First, National Park College has a soccer camp that is Monday, July 8th at 10 o'clock in the morning, located at National Park College, 101 College Drive. Campers at this soccer camp will work through drills, developing basic soccer skills such as passing, dribbling, defending, and shooting with current players on the NPC men's and women's soccer teams. Campers can expect to learn new and exciting skills, drills, and perspectives related to soccer from our talented and diverse counselors. For a full list of the available sports camps, please visit www.np.edu/summer camps. And second is, I just want to wish all of the residents here of Hot Springs a happy 4th of July, and I hope you have a safe Independence Day celebration. Thank you.
Very good. Any other announcements of upcoming events? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. These are of a routine nature that do not merit individual discussion, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We'll move on to old business, and we'll consider Resolution R-24-106 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-24-106, resolution awarding a bid to Environmental Protection Associates, Inc. for the abatement and removal of asbestos and lead-based paint at 228 Orange Street and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Director Holliday, seconded by Director Dobbs Smith. And the staff report will be provided by Chief Building Official Mike Scott. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give you a quick overview. In September of '22, the board condemned the structure at 228 Orange Street. In June of '23, Planning Department asked for a asbestos and lead-based paint report. And then in March of '24, all the building permits at this building had expired, so the Planning Department requested bids to have the asbestos and lead-based paint removed. Navaholtz Environmental Services bid on the project, and as well as Environmental Protection Associates. Environmental Protection Associates was the low bidder at $26,000. May 21st of this year, this was tabled until July 2nd, today, to give the current buyer of the property, Mr. Powell, to formulate a plan going forward. June 22nd, Mr. Powell withdrew his purchase of the property. And so here we are today to ask again that we understand that this is a phase of removing the structure does not exceed $60,000 limit that requires the board approval. We do understand that the total cost of remediation and abatement will exceed that figure. Therefore, we come to the board recommending that we proceed by issuing the contract to Environmental Protection Associates.
Any questions of Mr. Scott?
Mayor, I want to add to this staff report. I did receive an email today from Mr. Powell that had a plan in place for that particular property. As you are aware, we received a letter from Mr. Powell stating that he was no longer part of that project. Right. But he did submit a plan today that he stated Monolith Properties has approved as their path forward. Did want to make the board aware that I did receive that letter from Mr. Powell. He's here tonight and is going to speak, but I did want to bring that to the board's attention, so you'll have that information.
Any questions of Mr. Scott? Thank you. As Mr. Burrow indicated, Mr. Roger Powell has signed up to speak. Sir, You're welcome to come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Roger Powell, 312 Morrison Avenue, District 2. So the last meeting, we talked about a plan, correct? And so I wanted to fulfill that and bring that to you. Now, I talked to Monolith at length about it, and they've adopted this plan as a roadmap to move forward with making necessary repairs or even just full out renovate the facility. So you have that plan. Hopefully you've had the time to review it. If you don't, I have copies with me.
Mr. Powell, they did not have a copy of that plan.
Oh, well, let me help. The first one, the one page, is geared towards, is just developed to fix all of the needed repairs to take the building off the condemned list. Now, the 3-page plan is a more detailed plan to fully renovate the facility.
Mr. Powell?
Yes, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm at a state of confusion. Can you help me get out of that state, if you will? So, you know, a few months back, when this item was first on our agenda, the abatement of this property, or, you know, to remove the asbestos from this property, you were here to speak that night and laid out some plans indicating why you would need our support to not carry on with the removal of that asbestos, because it's going to prohibit you from fulfilling these plans that you want to do at this property on Orange Street. And so there were some details that were kind of left out, I think, that night, and that's why we made the move to table that item, to give you some time to come up with the plans that you're sharing with us here today. And then, in between then and now, we've also received a letter that you had written to share that you have no interest in purchasing this property. So that, to me, means we should carry on with the removal of this asbestos, because those plans that you said that you were going to develop, you no longer want to do that. And now tonight, you're sharing with us that this email should be disregarded, and that you have now a relationship with Monolith, and so your plans can be moved forward. Do you have any kind of notification to us of what your relationship with Monolith is?
So let me be clear. My plans for, you know, the vision is the same. My plans are the same. Just because it's not necessary for me to purchase the property, I still am working with Monolith to save this building. And they're allowing me to do that, and I'm going to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. So just to clear any confusion, you know, I'm thankful for the fact that they are allowing me to develop the plan, talk with them in length about the plan, and I'm glad they adopted the plan. And my hope is for them to continue to move forward with it.
What does this email mean? Can you share on the screen, Harmony, this email from our packet from Mr. Powell? Yeah, I think it was dated
June 22nd.
June 22nd of '24.
The email is the 24th, the letter's the 22nd.
Right.
You want the email or the letter?
The letter. Mr. Powell, the letter that's about to be up here, can you, I'm sure you know kind of what it says. According to here, you're the author of this letter. What does this mean, this letter?
It means that there is no longer an interest in purchasing. That's it.
Purchasing,
Purchasing 228 Orange, the property. So there's no longer an interest there. That's it.
and so how does the interest of no longer purchasing this property share with us what your relationship with Monolith is, and how does that all pertain to your plans?
So let me try to put us back on track. My whole goal here is to I am against the approval of the funds to remove the asbestos and against the approval of the $100,000 bond, which I do understand, that piece. Now, concerning my relationship with Monolith, that's not a concern here, but the moving forward to approve this $26,000 to potentially tear down a facility that some progress has been made towards repairs and things of that nature. So I'm asking that you don't approve the $26,000. Here recently, before the meeting, a short chat with, I believe, Mr. Scott, which I asked him, is he willing to share the contractors regarding the removal of the asbestos, share that information so that Monolith can move forward with removing it themselves instead of, because of some of the things that did happen last year that kind of put me, in this position to where I'm thinking that, well, if you approve this, then there's going to be a push to tear down this building no matter what. So my whole goal is to show you this plan, talk to Monolith, which I have, show them the plan, which I have. They have the funds to do it. And as a matter of fact, they've already lined out a contractor that they know. So why not let them do it? That's my thing. And so I'm asking you not to approve the $26,000 to remove the asbestos. Allow them to move forward, because either two things need to happen anyway. The asbestos needs to be encapsulated or removed. One of the two.
Director Dobbs-Smith.
I'm confused as well. Last meeting that we had with you, you were potentially the buyer of the property, but the owners didn't come here. This time you're coming with your letter. It says you don't want to buy the property, but yet are any representatives from the Monolith here that are against removing the asbestos?
Are you asking me that question?
I'm asking you. Are you speaking for them? Are they here?
I am speaking for them in this capacity because I developed the plan.
But no one from Monolith came here tonight.
not that I can see, but because I developed the plan, I'm speaking on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or of Mr. Powell? Director
Not of
Trustee?
Mr. Powell, I have a question for Mr. Scott.
Okay. Mr. Powell, you can just step to the side for a second, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, have any permits been pulled
There
on
was a
this
permit
property?
to do some flat roof work on the front of the building.
Mike, will you speak into the microphone?
There
please?
was a permit pulled to do some flat roof work on the very front of the building. There's some
Okay.
small flat roof areas, and TPO roofing there. And then on the dome part, they just kind of put a temporary patch of tarps over that area right there. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Those have been issued recently?
Yeah, they've been issued and the permit's been finalized out and done.
Okay, thank you.
Because it was just a small permit to do those flat roof TPO areas in front.
Any other questions of Mr. Powell from directors? Mr. Powell, I share the concerns and comments of Director Webb and Director Dobbs-Smith. When I received the letter dated June 22nd, 2024, indicating that you had withdrawn the purchase of the property, maybe it's my bad that I understood you to be withdrawing from the project. But apparently that's not the case.
Not the case.
But at the same time, the property owner, Monolith, is not here to speak on their behalf. We don't have any correspondence from them authorizing you to speak on their behalf. And,
Is that necessary?
well, I don't think somebody would want me to go speak on their behalf without some permission. And
Again, Monolith knows that I'm here. They adopted the plan. I've talked to them in length about it. And I said that I was going to provide one, and I have. So,
are you
There it is.
leasing the property from Monolith?
I'm sorry.
Are you leasing the property from Monolith right now? Are you making some form of payments to Monolith?
No, I withdrew from the purchase.
You withdrew, okay, so you were making payments to Monolith on a lease purchase arrangement, or?
Okay, again, none of this is necessary. This is beside the point. The focus here is to show you the progress that has been done on the building. And not only that, Monolith, they've adopted the plan. They want to use it as a roadmap. I brought it to you. A lot of significant work has been done on this building. Now, is it a substantial progress? Maybe not, but it's progress. So I'm asking you to not approve the bond or the $26,000 to remove the asbestos. When, again, one or two of the things need to happen here is the removal of it or the encapsulation of it.
And I'm hard pressed, I mean, you're speaking on behalf of Monolith, but you don't have the authority to implement the plan.
I developed the plan. That's why I'm speaking. I said
I-
I would bring it, and I brought it.
All right. Any other
It's,
questions?
the rest of it is up to them.
Well, that's the concern, is
Now, why is that a concern, Mayor?
well,
Tell
they're
me.
not here to state that we endorse it, we're gonna move forward on this time frame, and, you
But
know,
do they have to? Is that necessary?
well, I think we got a chief building inspector there that's gonna say, yeah, that's, they need to be a party to this if they're gonna pull permits and put forth a plan that causes us to not take action tonight.
I'm sure that they will. I'm sure they will. Again, the plan is here, work has been done, accomplishments have been made. It's not necessary to approve it.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Powell, I don't dispute your eagerness and your passion to see progress happen on this property and proper renovation. I think for me, too, the concern that I have is similar to what the mayor's pointing out to you, is I think there has to be some type of legality present. If the owner of the property is Monolith, they should be here to testify and support everything you're sharing with us. There should be some type of legal precedent, some type of paperwork that binds Monolith to this plan that you're presenting us with. Otherwise, anybody and everybody could do what you're doing here in front of us tonight, and I don't think that's the proper way for us to move forward. I think what I would want to see is if you feel confident that Monolith will support your plan, then would there be any way that this board moving forward can perhaps table this matter again to have Monolith bring forward some official documents to concur with Mr. Powell that this is the plan that they support? So that's kind of where I am.
I completely understand. I can tell you that they support it, but if you want some statement from them, yeah.
Director Holliday?
Thank you. With all due respect, Monolith has had this property for a long time. And it's been, we voted on condemnation how long ago? Does anyone, I don't remember. Okay, so 2 years ago, we voted to condemn the building, and they have now had 24 months to do something, and a small flat roof repair, unfortunately, is not significant enough to say that we should not continue moving forward. Also, I think it's fair to say that no one in the city wants to spend this money or do this. So please don't think we want the building to go away. It's an amazing building. But it's becoming more and more unsafe. And in the past, Mike Scott has taken time and spent time with owners when they pull permits. Things have come off of condemnation often, and we're really excited when that happens. So if you guys pull permits and work starts happening sooner than later, I would not be surprised that he'll come back in a month or two and say, hey, we didn't have to do it because Monolith did the work. In which
I
case,
agree.
Then
Well,
we can
let
move forward.
Monolith do the work. That's
they're-
that's what the plan is here.
But
If you
this-
want a statement from Monolith, they've seen the plan, I've talked to them.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. I'm just saying that us voting on this doesn't keep them from working on their own building. They absolutely can continue to work. We would love to see them work, but to keep waiting and to keep having this conversation when, quite frankly, they're not here to have the conversation with you and support you in this is, you know, it just doesn't give me enough to hit pause again.
Any additional questions of Mr. Powell from the board? Director Webb?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you. Mr. Scott, you have a comment?
Our bid does expire soon.
Yeah, that's
just
why we
wanna
had
make
the
sure y'all
meeting.
remember that. That's
This is
why
on the
we set
agenda
this
today
date.
because of the expiration date.
Yeah, this date is just prior to our bid expiring soon. so.
It will expire prior to your next meeting, Mayor.
Correct. Thank you. All right. Appreciate you all. Thank you. Discussion amongst directors? Or maybe I should say, is there anybody else in the audience that wanted to speak on this resolution? Discussion amongst directors? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. In light of this plan being before us here today from Mr. Powell, but yet without the representation of Monolith, I find it hard pressed to move forward with this here tonight. But what I would like to do is to give Monolith at least the opportunity to say that the plan that Mr. Powell has provided us with tonight is something that they agreed to do. And therefore, I want to make a motion to table this item for the next board meeting.
It won't be necessary to table this item. The bid will expire on its own if you,
We can send out new bids.
that is true. There's a motion.
We have a motion to table. We have a second. Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
No.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
No.
Webb.
Aye.
Trustee.
No.
Mayor McCabe.
No. Motion to table fails. Please call the roll on the original resolution.
Director Beard.
No.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
No.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. That completes the item under old business. Now, we had an item moved from the consent agenda to the first item of new business, so we'll begin with that. Consider Resolution R-24-129, and I ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-24-129, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of certain energy efficiency conservation block grant, EECBG funds, from the U.S. Department of Energy for the purchase and installation of 2 electric vehicle charging stations. That concludes your reading. Mayor, if you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
I'm sorry, I got Director Holliday and the second by Director Webb. And Deputy City Manager Lance Spitzer will provide the staff report.
Good evening, board members. As the title indicates, city staff are requesting authorization to accept these funds from the Department of Energy. This funding came about as an appropriation in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. That's a large piece of legislation that had many appropriations throughout it. The Department of Energy has had the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant program for many years. As part of that, the EECBG funding received $550 million from that piece of legislation, and through that they allocated funding to states, cities, counties, and tribal entities. The City of Hot Springs was allocated $76,460 through that formula allocation, and those funds are part of the EECBG program, but they did offer a equipment rebate voucher program, which we previously have had these grant funds. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into applying for them, but also tracking and reporting. This is a little bit more of a streamlined option that was provided. These funds they do have some specific stipulations on what is an eligible project. City staff partnered with National League of Cities on several different training opportunities, really to work and figure out what's the best option for as far as projects go, but additionally to make sure that the project met the merits and to use our staff time and the funding as efficiently as possible. In doing that, the equipment rebate option was probably our best option to move forward with. The Complete Streets team, which is one of the City Hot Springs multi-departmental groups that meets, they recommended that City Hot Springs procure 2 electric vehicle charging stations and cited the location of the new Church Street parking lot at 408 Malvern Avenue, one we just recently acquired from Visit Hot Springs. This will be very similar to the charging stations we have at Hill Wheatley Plaza. Those are 2 charging stations with 2 charging ports each, so for a total of 4. All told, the project, the funding, the $76,460, will provide a turnkey project for us. That'll be site work, the equipment, and as far as how that fits into our paid parking program, this is kind of an added amenity to it, just very similar to how we utilize Hill Wheatley. But as we transition into a paid parking program, we will charge for the space, but not for the electricity. So it was going to be a little cumbersome to try to do both, to charge for the charging, and then also for the space. So as we move into this paid parking program, the electric vehicle charging stations, you will pay for the space, the time that you're in the space, but you will not pay for the electric charging. These are level 2 AC chargers, so they're not the level 3 DC fast chargers. They're not the level 1s that you have in your home. So they're really, you get a full charge with anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. And so I think that works pretty well with our paid parking program and the time stipulations that we will implement on it. And all told, the City of Hot Springs, of course, the funding was not a tremendous amount of funding, and that's one of the reasons we went with this equipment rebate and the electrical vehicle charging station was to be the most efficient use of the funds. That concludes the presentation.
Any questions of Mr. Spitzer? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple points that I want to bring out, and you can kind of correct me if anything's off along the way, but, you know, and then I've got a couple questions to ask you too, Lance. Overall, I mean, I don't have any major issue with the acceptance of this EECBG grant in general. I do, however, want to focus on the streamline review topics. More specifically, I want to highlight section 4.A and then 4.B of the review topics, and these both deal with the infrastructure, ways to develop a charging plan to include cost assessment of an electric bill. And at the agenda meeting, and then again here tonight, it was shared with the board that the city's intent was to not charge those who utilize the EV charging stations any cost for the electricity being generated for those EV chargers. And I don't think I'm for doing that. I'm against giving away electricity for EV charging because essentially nothing is free. The electricity is at a cost to somebody. And I do understand that we are going to be providing a fee for the parking space as part of the parking plan moving forward. But if the city gives away electricity to EV chargers, the taxpayers of our city bear that burden. And that just isn't right at all. I mean, if we do that, we might as well give away gasoline to drivers of normal vehicles, and that isn't realistic either. So I want to just take this time to see, or really to ensure that any EV charging station in Hot Springs that's maintained by city staff and owned by the city charges standard electric energy rates to those who utilize this service. It should not be free, and the taxpayers should not have to foot the bill. This could be done with a meter or however, but in my opinion, it's got to be done. The Lumitech EV proposal that was included in our packet did mention something about a meter base. So I've got a couple of questions to ask about that. Would that be kind of the meter to determine how much electricity each car is using, or would there be some prepay options, you know, to determine how much electricity someone using that parking spot could get for their EV? But that's the amendment to this resolution I would want us to make, is just to ensure that the electricity not be given away to that spot, because it really isn't free. The taxpayers are going to have to foot that bill, and I've heard of some cases where, you know, that can range anywhere between $5 and $25 per charge per vehicle. That's going to get us into some pretty steep numbers, and I think we owe it to our taxpayers to not just give that away and put the burden back on our taxpayers. So that's kind of at least the points that I want to make, and I guess the question is, are any of these new EV stations equipped with a meter to determine how much electrical usage is being used per charge? And do we have any applicable way to apply standard rates at that spot too when somebody's using the parking space?
Certainly.
And I'll yield. Thank you.
The charging stations themselves are set up in such a manner they utilize an app for the EV charging, and whatever that standard rate is, you have to have an account. It's going to charge you so much per kilowatt hour. You know, generally speaking, for these level 2s, it's not a tremendous amount of expense for using the power, but they're all set up to be charged for the usage. The ones that are in Hill Wheatley, we just, those were obtained through a grant as well from Energy Arkansas. We did not set that up as a charging, to charge for that particular service. Looked at it more, like I said earlier, as an amenity. But certainly all the charging stations themselves are essentially built in to have a fee recovery system.
Would we be able to make that a possibility for someone who's using that space to pay then and there? You know, let's just say I've got an EV, I take this parking spot and I use this charger. At what point am I going to need to pay? Could this station be set up so that I just put $10 in and I get $10 worth of electricity, or would that need to come out after the charging is complete?
Yeah, after it's completed,
Okay.
generally it bills your credit card
Okay.
at the end of the session.
So could that be done with these two new EV stations?
That could certainly be something.
And the ones at Hills Wheatley too?
Hill Wheatley, we could. Those are older. I think those are about 3 or 4 years older. These will have a little bit more bells and whistles to them, but certainly those are things, if that's the board's pleasure, we can certainly have that added, because we do have to, when I talked about streamlined, we still have to go through the procurement process. So those are things that we could put into the specifications to have those for sure. So that's something up front for the manufacturers to understand.
Well, thank you. And that's the position I have. That's the only amendment I would want to make to this resolution. Thank you, Lance.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions of Lance? Well, Lance, I understand the concern of Director Webb of people not being charged. I don't know what across the country whether people are charging or not. I got the feeling they are. And secondly, on the Church Street parking lot, are you able to, have a couple of those spaces, the charging station spaces, for lack of a better term, outside the paid parking area, to where you're not necessarily entering in? I mean, can it be sectioned off in some kind of way to where people understand that this isn't a parking spot, this is a charging spot? I know they're going to see the charging kiosks.
We generally sign them because we do have parking under the parking offenses. You can't, non-EV cars are not supposed to park in EV parking spots, but additionally, EV cars do need to be actively charging. They can't just simply be parked there. But as far as the Church Street parking lot, I think the way it lays out, we were utilizing some of the power that's in the middle that goes to some of the street lights, the lamp posts there. So I think to have it outside of the parking area may be kind of difficult, but we can certainly sign it in an effective way so people understand that these are EV charging spots, and if there is a fee to be charged, that they understand that as well.
Well, certainly you could modify the fee since they're already paying for a parking spot, if that's going to be the case. So is Director Webb offered some pricing on charging, obviously whether it's a full, you're totally drained versus you just want to top off. What is the cost of charging a vehicle?
Because I think the thing is, we don't necessarily hit a demand charge with these, like the level 3s, like there are a few of these in the city. Those are where some of the expense comes, because whenever you're paying that demand charge to have that basically 3-phase power. But generally speaking, the price per kilowatt, it's very similar to what's in your home, because it's I don't have off the top of my head what that charge might be. But it's not insignificant, but I don't believe it's a tremendous amount either.
Mr. Burrow?
Mayor, members of the board, if it's the board's pleasure to make sure that we recoup the fees for the electrical charging, we can look at industry standards on what that may be based on a per hour charge, and potentially add that to the cost of those particular spots. Instead of being $1 an hour, maybe it's $3 an hour or $2 an hour, whatever that additional fee would be. And we can explore adding that for those 4 spots in the kiosks that we're programming. The other issue, if it's the board's pleasure, we'll look at what the opportunities are, because I think we also have the opportunity to be able to charge for the spot as we would any vehicle. And then, as Lance mentioned, there'll be a QR code that they'll be able to scan that'll take them to another site that will charge them for the power. We can explore both of those, but if it's the board's pleasure, we will certainly do that, and we'd like to see this item move forward. And if that's the direction of the board, we'll make sure that happens, and I'll report that at a later date.
Yeah, our action tonight is to, as it's stated here, authorize to accept the funding allocation. So, we're just going to accept the funding allocation so we can procure the equipment, and we can get our policies and our charging developed in advance of receiving and installing and making it operational. Director Webb?
I think you hit on what I was going to ask, but I do want to make sure that prior to moving forward, that we do have that understanding in place, that if I were to vote yes for this particular resolution, I want to make sure that me voting yes also is a direct implication that we will be charging for the electricity being used by the charging station. So would I not need to make a motion to make that amendment, or to be official?
I think the city leadership has heard the direction of the board.
Okay.
And what I'm hearing is you want staff to come back to the board, discuss with the board prior to implementation of the charging stations. We can proceed with the application and acceptance of a grant to receive them, but before there's any installation and application, the staff will report back to the board to get its concurrence.
Right, and so what you're saying is prior to the implementation of these EV chargers, there will be some type of rate that is applied for those who are using these stations, whether it's what our city manager was sharing, which was industry standards pricing, or standard electrical rates. One of those two options would come
It'll all come
into
back
play.
to the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions of Mr. Spicer? Thank you. Anybody sign up? Oh, yeah, we did. I'm sorry. We do have some people who have signed up to speak. Ms. Sharon Perrette, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Here you go, Sharon. Here you go, Sharon.
Sharon Pratt, 140 Cooper Street, and I live in District 3. I am opposed to this. Two reasons. One, from the newspaper coverage, it didn't sound like the city was going to be charging for any of the electrical usage. So what difference does that make for somebody that goes to Kroger or Walmart and gasses up their vehicle? And secondly, it's not the responsibility of city government to provide those services. That's something a private business can operate, and the city not be on the hook for, because the next thing you know, we'll have people asking that the city run a gas station for regular vehicles. So please consider that.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. But you did hear the discussion that we will
Yes.
be charging. And
But
again,
I'm with Dudley, let's make sure.
yeah.
But I also still feel it's not the responsibility of city government to provide that type of a business service. That's
Yeah.
a private enterprise type thing.
Okay. This is a grant from the U.S. Department of Energy, so this is a federal program. And,
It's our tax dollars. It's-
oh, I understand.
It's-
And
it's
they
not
have a certain
freebie.
allocation, and they're providing it to municipalities across the country. So,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Pat King, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Pat King, 219 Glade. I don't know what the city has against Park Avenue. We had somebody take a nasty, dirty-looking lot across from the Velda Rose, make it look wonderful, open a paid parking lot. Then the city comes along and spends an awful big sum of money trying to figure out a parking plan for the city. to be competition for that parking lot. Now, somebody just opened up a electric charging station on Park Avenue next to the Vapors. And what happens? The city comes along and wants to go into competition with him. I don't know whether you want to put him out of business or not. But the city has no business being in competition with a private business. We're spending public money. I don't care if it made a detour through Washington, D.C. and got discounted there and comes back worth even less here. But this is all giveaway. Somebody's buying somebody's votes, and we don't need that. We need prosperous businesses. These two businesses were new when the city comes walking in on them. And I know, Mayor, you opened your own private business. The hardest time is in the beginning when you've made all your investment and you got to recoup that before you start making a dime. This just isn't fair to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes those who have signed up to speak on this resolution. Any discussion amongst directors? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So as I'm looking at what's in front of us today with this resolution, the EV stations themselves are coming to us via grant, federal grant, so that's going to be at no cost per se to the city taxpayers. And if we are able to recoup all of the electricity that's being utilized to charge the EVs at these stations, then there's essentially zero out-of-pocket cost for us moving forward. Does that not sound accurate? So,
Correct.
As long as we get a sustainable plan to recoup the electricity charges and those rates, whether it be through industry standards or through standard rates for energy and electricity, I'm not seeing a huge deal with this passing. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Again, that was the item moved from consent agenda to new business, so we'll begin again on item 7, consider resolution R-24-131, and ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-24-131, resolution declaring a certain structure located at 307 Euclid Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs Smith. And our staff report will be provided by Chief Building Official Mike Scott.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back.
Last Thursday, I was made aware of this property is sold, so they will be closing next week. The person buying it currently has a project going in Hot Springs right now at 400 Oaklawn. He'll be getting his building finals next week. I drove by and reviewed the project. That project he's doing at 400 Oaklawn looks wonderful. He also owns other properties that he plans on fixing up. But this one here, he's going to close on it next week. He said he has a crew ready to start as quick as he closes on the loan. So I would like to ask that this be postponed or reset or tabled or.
Do you have a preference over tabling or simply approving the condemnation and not going through demolition if they close and get a permit?
Yeah, we can do that. I just don't want to mess up any financing he has by having a condemnation on the books.
We don't have to file it.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that, just hold the filing.
The notice of condemnation's already gone out. It's not been filed with the clerk yet.
Yeah.
It really doesn't, you could table it if that's what you want to do.
I would
But
like to be consistent, though, with how we've worked with other properties and owners, where we say, if
Yeah.
you show good effort in the next 30 days, we're not going to proceed.
I feel confident this guy. I've had 2 lengthy conversations with him, and I feel very confident that he's going to either tear it down himself once he gets in it, or he's going to fix it up. That's his goal. He wants to fix it up, but we all know once you get in there sometimes, he said he would tear it down if that's what it requires, and he would build something back. So,
you would typically continue on with your decision about condemnation, and if a permit is pulled properly and work begins within 30 days, no demolition would occur. This is a little different because it actually sold, or it's going to close. It hasn't closed yet.
Next week.
The only problem I have with taking it off the agenda or tabling it is we've gone through the process of notifying the property owners, and it's on your docket, so to speak. So.
So proceed, and then Mike has a discretion,
Right.
as you normally have,
Yeah.
with, when they show effort of via taking out permits and demonstrating the ability to do so.
Let me get
Oh, sorry, Mike, I cut off your presentation.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't prepared for that. I'm sorry. So I've got it here somewhere. So, yeah, the new owner was unaware that it was even going up for condemnation, so. Here we go. City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 307 Euclid. The structure was inspected on a number of occasions and has been deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural damage that poses public health and safety risk. October of 2019, Neighborhood Services issued a notice to comply to the owners to cut and maintain the property and clean the carport area. There was no action taken. In December of 2020, the Planning Department filed a lien with the Garland County Clerk for the cost incurred for cleaning the property and cutting the property. And the amount of the lien is $144.98, and that is still outstanding. August of 23, a second vacant structure notice had been issued to the owners for the same violations as in April. And in January, a third vacant structure notice was issued to the owners for the same violation as in April. April of 24, a limited title search was requested. May 3rd, 2024, consideration of condemnation was mailed to both Karen and Thurman Boone at the address recorded in the Hot Springs, and both acknowledgments were returned signed on May 8th. May 6th, the notice of board meeting was attached to the structure. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make the repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Taxes are current on it. The only liens we have on it is the $144.98. I made the new owner aware of those liens, and so.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Scott? Thank you. Did we have anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
No.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. The final three action items are all ordinances. At this time, we'll consider ordinance O-24-19, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Webb. Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-24-19, an ordinance amending the zoning map from R4 residential to CTR commercial transition for Lot 1, Block 6 of McNown subdivision, amending the future land use plan map designation for residential to convenience commercial and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Webb. And our staff report will be provided by Planning Manager Rick Stoddard. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Applicant and property owner, Mr. John Stanley, seeks CTR commercial transitional zoning for approximately .045 acres of land, which is located at the intersection of Cypress Street, Butterfield Street, and Rosewall Streets. Again, the property is currently zoned R4. It's currently undeveloped and vacant. It has a future land use classification of residential medium high and is located in Board of Directors District Number 1. This request seeks zoning change consideration again from R4 to CTR. Surrounding property zoning to the west and to the north are both C4 commercial. To the south is CTR, commercial transitional, and to the east is R4, medium to high density residential. Nearby land uses include retail, restaurant, hotel, mini warehouse, and single-family residential. The proposed zoning change request responds to the required findings in the following way. This zoning change request demonstrates compatibility with surrounding zoning and development. Adjacent and nearby zoning and land uses are comprised of a mixture of commercial and single-family residential uses. The requested CTR zoning would be compatible with the surrounding development and zoning, as well as when you consider its close proximity to East Grand Avenue. If rezoned to CTR, this property would be afforded the complete list of permitted and conditional uses as detailed in Hot Springs Code Section 16-2-152, the table of permitted uses. The property's future land use classification of residential medium high is not compatible with the requested CTR zoning. Other CTR zone properties in the vicinity have a future land use designation of convenience commercial. So the finding on this application is that the application does successfully demonstrate that the standards for favorable consideration have been met. Planning Commission is able to establish a basis for recommending to the Board of Directors that the proposed change does demonstrate compatibility with surrounding development and zoning. Planning Commission, at their duly advertised meeting held on June 13th of this year, considered and unanimously recommended that the board approve an ordinance amending the zoning map from R4 to CTR and to amend the future land use map designation to convenience commercial for this property.
Any questions of Mr. Stoddard? Thank you. Anyone sign up?
No, sir.
No? Discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia, oh, sorry. Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Moving on to consider ordinance O-24-20. And I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved.
Director Webb.
Second.
Seconded by Director Trustee. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Please read by title, council.
Ordinance O-24-20, an ordinance amending the zoning map from R2 suburban residential to C3 office neighborhood commercial for 1.25 acres located at 209 Carpenter Dam Road. And for other purposes, that concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Webb. And again, Mr. Stoddard will provide a staff report.
Thank you again, Mayor. Applicant and property owner, Mr. Alex Moody, seeks C3 office neighborhood commercial zoning for approximately 1.25 acres of land, which is located at 209 Carpenter Dam Road. The subject property is currently zoned R2, suburban residential, has a future land use classification of neighborhood commercial center, and is located in Board of Directors District Number 6. The subject property is currently developed with a 1,436 square foot single-family residence. Again, the property consists of a total amount of land of 1.25 acres in total, and it has about 150 foot of street frontage along Carpenter Dam. This particular property is situated between between Malvern Avenue and the Martin Luther King Jr. Expressway. This section of Carpenter Dam Road accommodates large volumes of traffic as the 2022 Arkansas Department of Transportation daily traffic estimate shows approximately 12,000 vehicle trips per day. Surrounding property zoning consists of M1 light manufacturing to the west, C3 office neighborhood commercial to the north and south, and to the east is R2 suburban residential. Adjacent and nearby land uses include office, medical clinic, state police headquarters, manufacturing facility, restaurant, retail, financial institution, and single-family residence. This request responds to the required findings in the following way. The zone change request demonstrates compatibility with surrounding zoning and development. Adjacent and nearby land uses are comprised of a mixture of commercial, manufacturing, and single-family residential. The requested C3 zoning would be compatible with this surrounding development and zoning. Also, this requested change helps to implement an approved city plan. The City of Hot Springs future land use map designation for the property is Neighborhood Commercial Center. The requested C3 zone is compatible with this existing future land use map designation. Therefore, the request helps to implement an approved city plan. If rezoned to C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial, this property would be afforded the complete list of permitted and conditional uses as detailed in Hot Springs Code Section 16-2-152, the table of permitted uses. As far as the finding goes, the application successfully demonstrates that the standards for favorable consideration have been met. Planning Commission is able to establish a basis for recommending to the Board of Directors that the proposed change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding zoning and development and is compatible with property's future land use map designation of Neighborhood Commercial Center. Therefore, a land use map designation amendment would not be required. Planning Commission, at their duly advertised meeting on June 13th, considered and unanimously recommended that this Board of Directors approve an ordinance amending the map from R2 to C3 for the 1.25 acres of land located at 209 Carpenter Dam Road, because the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding zoning and development, and it does help to implement an adopted city plan.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Stoddard?
I do, actually. Rick, are you comfortable that this zoning request is going to have an adequate setback for what will someday hopefully be the widening of Carpenter Dam?
Yes, sir. I mean, there's other properties similarly situated as far as size.
Okay, because this one says 25 feet or greater, so the building site, whatever the building plan that comes in, you'll incorporate that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully that'll help.
Is this, Rick, is this property being acquired by the developer to the east, or is it a single, is this property being developed by somebody other than to the east and west of it, or north and south of it, I guess?
Not to my knowledge. The owner is present, but I'm not aware that he owns any additional property in that vicinity.
All right, very good. Any further questions of Mr. Stoddard? Thank you. We do have the gentleman, as mentioned, Mr. Alex Moody, and he can come forward and tell us a little bit of your plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Future plan for the put a strip center, develop the whole area there, because I own property right next to lot, both of mine belongs to me. They are commercial 3 zoning, so future will be like put in a 50,000 square foot strip center or something, develop the whole area.
Okay. Are you going to have an access to this property from
the both side of the highway? Yes, sir. From the back side of the street by the state police and the front of the Carpenter Dam.
Okay, so there'll be a new access point
Yes,
cut
sir.
in off of Carpenter Dam, but you
Yes,
also have the rear access.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We noticed that the property ID numbers were all sequential, but the names were different, so that's why we were curious.
Yeah,
if you
just
were-
my
Okay.
mother's name and kind of partners with that, that's one reason.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Moody? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
No one else has signed up to speak. Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance O-24-21, and I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded Director Webb. I have a motion and second to suspend the rules and read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-24-21, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6458 pertaining to the property maintenance code of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So
So-
moved.
Second.
Director
Holiday.
Holiday, thank you. And Director Trustee, thank you
sir.
both. And let's see, Mr. Albright will be providing a staff report.
I will attempt to kick this off, Mayor.
Thank
This
you.
is a topic that has been discussed by the board and by staff, and for that matter, by the community for some time now. There is a state law that provides for implied warranties of habitability with respect to landlord-tenant relationships. However, those are only remedies that can be sought through civil redress. And so as a result of proposed ordinance that came to the board, a discussion through a public commentary section, and then work began on a proposed ordinance that could address some of these things. Subsequent to that, the city manager convened an ad hoc committee to discuss and attempt to draft a proposed ordinance that would deal with these issues, and in doing so, it would amend Ordinance 6458, as I mentioned, is the property maintenance code. The amendments addressing housing standards for residential rentals aim to enhance tenant protections and ensure consistent community standards. The members of the committee were Daniel Brown, Dr. Nadine Jarman, Keyshawn Hicks, and Russell Thomas. This committee has unanimously recommended the adoption of this proposed ordinance. We've met, I believe, 3 times in 2024 and 2 or 3 times in 2023 as we work through the provisions. The key provisions of this proposed ordinance would require things from the landlord that, again, are only implied under state law. The requirements would be hot and cold running water, electricity, potable drinking water, sanitary sewer system and compliant plumbing, functional heating system, functional roof and building envelope. In addition to that, we are requiring, if adopted, a disclosure statement from the landlord prior to the occupancy by the tenant, in which the landlords are signing and dating a disclosure statement that verifies whether or not there is air conditioning to the premises. And if so, whose responsibility is it to maintain the air conditioning system? Whose responsibility is it to pay the electrical costs associated with that? The exceptions to this ordinance does not apply to short-term residential rentals that are otherwise regulated under your code, single-family dwellings, nor does it invalidate the terms of any valid written lease agreement that has been negotiated between the tenant and the landlord. Affirmative defenses that are provided for the landlord to defend against noncompliance include compliance that is prevented by an act of God, utility failure, force majeure, epidemic, pandemic, or other uncontrollable events, or situations where a tenant has refused entry for repairs or caused the damages themselves. These provisions are supplemental and are not intended to diminish any of the provisions under the state law that we mentioned earlier. That can be found at ACA 18-17502. The fines and penalties associated with this ordinance are the same as the general penalties that are found for most all of our ordinances as codified in Hot Springs Code 1-1-15. And that is pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated section 14-55-405. 504. This would repeal, amend, and/or modify any other ordinance or resolution that is in conflict with this, and it will be renumbered to fall within the provisions that you have already established under your Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code, beginning in your code of 17-2-4.6. I'll attempt to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Albright? Director Holliday.
Thank you. I wanted a little bit of clarification. So under the exemptions, it says terms of a valid written lease.
Yes.
So would it be possible that someone could rent a substandard property as long as it was in writing in a lease and they agree to it.
If it was negotiated terms, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There may be reasons for that. Perhaps part of the rent is an agreement that they're going to rehab the structure. Don't know. We don't want to impede someone's ability to contract.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions to Mr. Albright? Hearing none, well, we have a number of people who've asked to sign up and who have signed up to speak on this. And the first will be Ms. Donna Gibson. Ms. Gibson, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Hi, thank you for having me. Donna Gibson, 135 Watt, District 2. Y'all are getting familiar with me. First off, I just want to know why we have to have a disclosure when we can't come through and just require the landlords to furnish cooling with the heat. Why can't we just change the wording? Because why would a landlord want to rent a property? You said for rehab purposes, but still that could be written in that he's not going to provide it. Landlords need to provide AC. Come on, we all go home, we ride our cars, we have AC. There's people out there that it's hard enough for them to make rent, and then you're going to tell them they're going to pay more to have AC. That's not fair. There's a lot of, I did my homework. There's a lot of health reasons. You know, come on, you're going to have people with heat-related illnesses, respiratory health, mental health. It affects your mentality. It affects how you think. Think about if you can't get enough sleep because you're sweating all night. Am I going to be a productive worker in your office or your business because I couldn't sleep because I'm sweating to death because my landlord can't provide AC? Stupid. You're going to save on hospital costs. You're going to have less people going to the emergency room because of heat strokes. We have enough with the homeless. Now we're going to make people that pay rent have to go pay an emergency room visit on top of having to pay extra for AC. The landlords need to realize if they provide this, they can make more money. They can filter it into the rent to start with. Now, I can go out here, and let me tell you what, I'm really, really pissed at a lot of these landlords. They're out there marketing now, AC available. That's like telling me I have laundry hookups available. That's crap. It should be in there. They should have it. Why would you want to rent something that doesn't have AC? In the long run, they can make more money. Their tenant will stay in there longer. Let me tell you, I work for a property management company. I went to my boss and he told me I could tell you that. The biggest complaint is my AC is not working. But once we started educating our residents on how to change filters, how to keep vents clean, how to maintain their homes, we don't have that many calls. You know, so the landlords need to think about this. It also increases property value. I put AC into my house. When I bought it, it increased my value. And then also, too, we got to think, we're talking about energy, you know, these electric things. Will help the tenants and the landlords with their electric bills. Put it in there and give them comfort. And there again, I'm going to go back. Let's circle back. Let's educate the people that are renting. We'll educate them. We can put together a community group to educate them. It'll help our landlords. It'll help our tenants. That's our responsibility.
Thank you. I'd like to call Mr. Russell Thomas to the podium. Please restate your name, address, and district, please.
Hi, I'm Russell Thomas. Live at 112 Summer Street, Hot Springs, District 3. I'm a member of the committee, and I'd just like to compliment the city on the work that you've put into this, the openness, and the ability to get input from all sides. We did a lot of struggling, a lot of arm wrestling, a lot of consideration of different issues. Much of what she has just discussed was discussed, and there are certain groups out there that do not use air conditioning, many of them being elderly. Often Hispanic families are not accustomed to it from their home countries, and they prefer not to. And I think we made a group decision which involved some representation from the housing authority, from tenants, from landlords, that people needed to be able to contract for what they want and for what they don't want. But we did make it very clear in this ordinance that there had to be specific information in great detail about the availability of air conditioning. And because a person can move in December desperate for housing and not think about that. So we made it where no one moves into a house, into a covered building without knowing where they stand on air conditioning. And that would have resolved the Greenbrier apartment problem that came up last year. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Thomas? Thank you. Mr. Daniel Brown, please come forward, restate your name, address, and district, please.
Daniel Brown, 484 Prospect, District 3. I won't talk a lot about the actual ordinance itself. If you have questions, I'll answer any questions, but more so the process of the committee that was formed. I was in this room last year when the original ordinance was brought to the table and then was taken off, and they announced that there would be a committee put together to come up with an ordinance. And just being very transparent, I thought, oh yeah, okay, there'll be some committee put together and they'll come in there and say, this is what we're going to do. Everybody good with it? Raise your hand. Let's go home. And shortly after that, I was called to actually be on that committee. And I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll get to see firsthand, see how this works. I was very, very encouraged as a citizen of Hot Springs with the process. The first meeting, there was an email that went out trying to get, I think, 6 or 7 of us on the committee together, and they were asking our schedules. And I thought, you're never going to get all these people together to make a schedule work. And that first email, I want to say there was like 11 different emails went back trying to get everybody's schedule. And so we all got there and we all met. And I remember we walked in, and it was kind of like Mr. Albright and Mr. Burrow, they were like, all right, y'all start giving your opinions. And I thought, they're actually asking us our opinions. And so over the course of the last year, I think we met 6 times, 3 last year and 3 this year. I can say this was a true effort of the citizens of Hot Springs. And it was really encouraging to see democracy work and to see, for you board of directors who asked for this, I wanted to come and just say, hey, this was actually done the way I think city government should be, by the people, for the people. And so I was just very, very encouraged. I mean, we would meet, and we actually got to have healthy arguments. And we would meet about certain things and say, hey, we want to see this. And Mr. Hicks, one of the tenant representatives, and one of the other representatives, they would say, well, we want to see this put in. And I remember I would leave, and I would be like, let's see if they really come back and put. And sure enough, there would be an email out. Mr. Albright would send an email out a couple days later, and it was exactly the way we had talked and agreed between us would be in there. And then we would come back and go back and forth. So I just thought it was really neat to see the process truly done democracy, and to come up with something that has taken a lot of time and effort. Everybody on the committee spent a lot of time and effort, not just during the meeting, but doing our homework to come up with this plan. So I just thought it was really neat to see the process. And thank you guys very much.
Good. Any questions of Mr. Brown? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Mr. Brown, I appreciate you being here this evening to share with us what that experience was like being on the ad hoc committee. I also appreciate all the work you do in our city. I am aware of several renovations that have had your name tagged to it as being who the renovator was. So I appreciate you helping to make Hot Springs look beautiful. And Mr. Thomas, I appreciate you serving on that committee, all the committee members too. And I did hear you share that it was a diverse committee. So there were, landlords, there were tenants. It was a makeup of everybody in our community. So I'm glad to hear that process went good. To kind of hop back on Ms. Gibson's question from earlier, which I think is included in this ordinance and this disclosure agreement. Let's just say I'm a tenant and I'm looking for somewhere to stay, or anybody for that matter. If anybody were to sign this agreement, and on the day that they sign it, their air conditioner is working, under this ordinance and this disclosure agreement, that air conditioner has to continue working for the remainder of their duration or lease agreement, correct?
Yes,
If
sir, that is
anything were to malfunction, then we resort back to this ordinance, and that's where we get into how is it going to be fixed and so forth. But at some point, if it's got an air at day one, it's got to have an air conditioner working by the time their lease agreement is over, correct?
Yes, sir, that is
No.
correct.
No?
No.
Okay.
The disclosure states who is responsible. So I can't agree with the statement that if it's working on day one, it has to be working 6 months later. It depends on what the disclosure says. It could be the landlord's responsibility for repairs and replacement. It could be the tenant's responsibility for repairs and replacement. But they know on the front end.
Right. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I think what's important to understand here is that the statute of frauds does not require a written contract for less than a year. So many of our tenants do not have the benefit of negotiating a contract. No offense to the landlords, we had some great ones on the committee. They don't have that benefit to negotiate. This at least requires by law, if adopted, for the landlord to disclose that information to the tenant so that the tenant can make an informed decision. That's all we're asking, is an informed decision, not something that's put down their throat.
Well, I think I may have used terminology that wasn't correct by including working or so forth, but the next question that I was going to ask you was if anybody were to consider renting a property and it doesn't have an air conditioner at the time of that consideration, they could disclose that they are aware that it doesn't have one and are okay with that and sign it and move forward too, right? That's kind of what we're seeing take place with this ordinance as well.
Correct.
So, I mean, all of what our city attorney was sharing is what I noticed being a part of this ordinance, but then also what you're sharing with us too, I'm seeing is that it essentially comes down to everything being upfront and honest starting at day one with, as it relates to air conditioning, running water, all of those type of life quality enhancements that we want to see in or might want to see in a property.
And on the renewals of these lease terms, many of our tenants are renting month to month, okay, without the benefit of a written lease. So each month is a renewal. It's just the way it is. It's month to month. So if there's a renewal, then let us know what the responsibilities are, or negotiate a real lease.
Okay. Any further questions of Mr. Brown? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one additional individual that has signed up to speak, Mr. Richard McGrew. Please come forward and restate your name and address, please.
Hello, it's Richard McGrew, 270 Overview Circle, Hot Springs, Arkansas. Thank you, directors. First of all, I want to thank you for your service to the community and the time that you donate. I know that it's a tough job sometimes, and I really appreciate y'all being here. This tenant-landlord issues have been an increasing area of concern for the state and in our local communities. I appreciate the action that the city has taken to help address these issues. I'm especially appreciative that City Manager Bill Burrows took the time to involve direct input from citizens in our own community by appointing a committee that represented parties from each side of these issues and listening to their challenges and then allowing their input on this ordinance. I believe the result, while not being perfect, does make a step in the right direction. This ordinance allows the landlord that has a desire to serve those at the lower income level to work with that individual by creating a lease that allows specific terms. The ordinance also allows the city to address issues in the areas of multifamily where most problems seem to be, holding landlords accountable when they have contracted to offer certain services. I'm currently at the state level working with a group of legislators looking at tenant-landlord issues. We have met twice and should meet once more this fall before considering possible legislation in the areas of property management, squatters' rights, and habitability bill. This is a huge issue, and like I said, although I don't believe this is perfect, it is a step in the right direction and will help the issues. And I do very much again appreciate all those that were on the committee and all the city officials that worked with this. I think it's a resolution that's an ordinance that's good, and I am supporting this ordinance this time. Thank you very much.
Any questions of Mr. McGrew? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. McGrew, if you don't mind sharing with us, did y'all take a vote on this ordinance as an ad hoc committee? This ordinance?
He wasn't on the
I
committee.
wasn't.
Oh, you wasn't on the committee? Okay, I thought you
No,
were.
No, I was not. We have a legislative working group that's looking at these issues.
Okay.
It is a very hot topic, and I will say that it's a tough job, because the legislation that you put out, most of all to me, you don't want to affect those that are barely hanging on. And so you want to be careful, and I think that there was a lot of consideration, a lot of thought put into this, and and I will say this, I think that we at the state can work long and hard, and we won't come up with the perfect one either, but I think this is very much a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That completes those who have signed up to speak on this. Any discussion amongst directors? Mr. Burrow?
If I could, I'd like to thank those members that served on the ad hoc committee. Mr. Russ Thomas, Daniel Brown. We also had Keyshawn Hicks and Dr. Nadine Jarman, who was with the Housing Authority with the City of Hot Springs, as well as Edward Withrow. Edward moved out of town about midway through our meetings, but he had a lot of input on the front end. We had really, really good dialogue, a lot of input from all parties representing either a tenant, the Housing Authority, or our landlords. And even with that, we had single-family homes, predominantly single-family home representation, as well as multifamily home representation on both ends. And just really appreciate the amount of time that they invested serving on this ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee, if this passes tonight, we'll disband that, but I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank them for serving on that, because they put a lot of time and effort into this, and just really appreciate those efforts. And as the gentleman spoke, when we walked out of that room on that last day and B circulated kind of the final document, everyone was happy. Well, maybe not completely happy, but that's usually when you have a good item, right? But I can tell you that Mr. Hicks, I believe his words was, "I love this," for the tenants. I believe Daniel and Russ both were very much happy with the final product. And as Mr. McGrew stated, it may not be perfect, but it's really going to change the way we do things in the City of Hot Springs. And so I really appreciate their participation in working through that with us. Thank you.
Very good. Well, I guess we're at the roll call point of this ordinance, so please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Director Dobbs-Smith?
Aye.
Webb?
Aye.
Trustee?
Aye.
Holliday?
Aye.
Beard? Director Beard?
No.
Mayor McCabe?
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. That completes the action items for this evening. Now we'll move on to Board of Directors items for discussion. Any director have an item for discussion? No items for discussion. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Director
Since Karen's
Dobbs-Smith
not
makes a
here.
motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Director Trustee has a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. We do have public commentary, so give us a few minutes to switch over and we'll begin briefly.